Interestingly, I was trying to make something like a Bolstart.
Hi all, I am Rushabh Shah, founder of Bolstart, and thank you for joining me today here for our Angel Investor Story Series. Today we have Kshitij Lodha here, who is an amazing angel investor. Kshitij, thank you so much for joining us here today. As you know, we enable working professionals to invest in startups, and this hasn't been done in the masses before, and that is where we are bringing the disruption into the ecosystem. But let's look at that towards the end. Right now, let's invite Kshitij to talk about himself. So, Kshitij, can you please go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. Thank you, Rushabh, for having me here. It's been an honor to sit with you and understand things from your perspective. My name is Kshitij. I am an MBA graduate. I came to Pune in 1999 for my higher education. I come from a small town called Udaipur, which is now widely known as the City of Lakes. So, while I came for my higher graduation, I also was doing chartered accountancy course. But eventually I gave up my CA course and thought of doing an MBA because I flunked a couple of times in CA, and I was thinking that it is not good for me to waste my number of years to do CA if I don't clear. And I had to, since I come from a background where all the family members are professionals, it was very important for me to start working as soon as possible. So I completed my MBA in finance, and then I started working in the year 2005. That was my personal background. While I started working in 2005, I joined a company which was a boutique private investment banking firm based out of Bangalore. So I got an opportunity to get into the private investment banking side at the beginning of my career, right? And I then moved on to a number of banks. So I worked with HDFC, ICICI, ABN AMRO, RBS during the transition phase. I worked with Deutsche Bank for about...
All based in Pune?
So yes, all of them were based in Pune except for Deutsche Bank.
Okay.
I worked with Deutsche Bank for 1.5 years in Bombay.
Oh, okay.
So, but then again, I think the life of Bombay was pretty fast, and I was not kind of willing to spend so much time into the tracks, into the railways, and on the streets. So I decided to come back to Pune. I joined a couple of firms, but then eventually in 2015-16, I called it quits from the corporate life. And I said that it's high time that I start on my own. And that's when I founded my firm called Fourth Years Capital, which is primarily a wealth management firm for HNIs and even the youngsters.
Amazing. Okay. No, amazing. And thanks for sharing about your journey. It is very inspiring and very contemplating to look at how you began with CA, then ventured into MBA, and now you are specifically in the finance field. Can you also tell us how you got involved with startups and how you started, or how did you begin with angel investing, and how did you also get involved with Bolstart? So that will be very helpful for our audience.
So I think it was beginning of my entrepreneurship career when I started coming across various youngsters who wanted to start something new. And usually we don't have so much of money to spare, right? Whatever we read about private equity and venture funding and all those jargons of investment banking terms, it was all like, you talk about the figures are used to be in lakhs and crores. When certain youngsters came to me and they started asking me that, can you help us with certain amounts to where you can actually invest and be a part of our business, that's when I looked at a couple of very young startups. Probably it was just at the ideation stage, and I decided to put in some money there. But having told you, Rushabh, that I think I'll also give you a brief about what I had thought of doing something in 2010 and 11. So interestingly, I was trying to make something like a Bolstart. I had created a website called investwala.in at that point of time, and thought of getting founders and investors and investees together, and with a small ticket size, help investors to understand and get used to the angel investing world, and help investees to ask for smaller amounts of money. But then the markets were not ripe, the term of angel investing was not ripe, and I did not have the guts to actually carry it forward. So when I think through some couple of friends and colleagues, I came across you guys, you and Piyush in particular. And when I heard you guys in multiple meetings with you, then I thought that this is what I wanted to do years back. And if you are the guys who can do it very well, so let me just come to Bolstart and take that legacy forward. So and that enticed me to actually become an investor with Bolstart. So that's when I actually came and thought of partnering with you in terms of being an investor. And I think Bolstart gave me an opportunity to not just being an investor with themselves, but also being a mentor to other startups what they come across. So yeah, it has been a good ride so far with Bolstart, I must say.
Yeah, we loved how you got engaged with us and how friendly you were with us. We have met other angel investors who are sometimes rude to other startup founders as well, right? But you came across as one of the most friendliest person we have met, and we are very happy and lucky to have you onboarded with us at Bolstart. So thank you for that. I understand that during your times the market were not as ripe as they are right now, especially with Shark Tank happening now. The word of startup is buzzing all around, and that is why we feel we are extremely lucky in terms of timing that we are able to launch Bolstart at this time. So yeah, we are really glad that you have joined us here.
So in fact, what I have also seen is that the kind of things you have been doing, right, in last whatever time I have engaged with you. You come out with pitch days. There's an investment screening and investment analysis of each pitch which comes to you. You make investment reports, which I have seen. Your team has been fantastic in terms of doing investment reports. I mean, I must say that collating so much of data and concising it to the common man language is what helps us to and not just me. I mean, I still belong to the finance community, but I have come across your investors, and they feel very comfortable because that language which they understand is not a finance jargon. It is a very simplistic language which helps them to understand how to go ahead. So I think that primarily helps me to understand how should I proceed and the process which you have taken ahead.
So yeah, it is very important that we keep things non-jargonified. And when investors ask us how we evaluate startups, we tell them there is three basic steps. Three process steps how they evaluate startups. First is by building their investment thesis, by understanding what industry they want to invest in. Second step in the process is discovering startups. There are various different channels to find startups, and Bolstart can be that one channel to find startups. And the third step and the most important step in the process is engaging with the startups. Investors should engage with the startups. So I want to ask you, what are your evaluation criteria, or how do you evaluate startups? If you could just shed light on that.
So broadly, I would say that I follow the similar steps, and I would engage into the similar activities. And what an angel investor actually should look into it. So the first, what you I think said was kind of sector, and so I look at ideas, right? Many a times an angel investor would have a preference to get into a startup. I'm looking at SaaS based tech, or I'm looking at AI based tech. I'm just looking at IoT companies. I'm looking at pharma. I'm looking at infrastructure company. Now every idea needs to be screened. Now there are multiple ideas across the globe, not just Pune, not just Maharashtra. The country is, I mean, you have 140 crore as population. There are crores of ideas which get generated. Now, for me to screen these ideas or to look out for these ideas individually is not possible. Right? I can go as far as to my friends, my family, or my investors or clients whom I know and look out for those ideas. But the world is much larger. And when I think what you have been doing is amazing, that collate those kind of ideas, get to the table of the investors. I think once you are done through that, then for me also it is the similar step. Engage with the startup. So primarily get in talks with the management, understand the management vision. If given an opportunity, can I have the direct interaction with the management, the promoters, because it is very important to understand their psyche, how they are working, so that my money can work with them. Correct. Right? So I think I would agree to what you have been completely saying, and I follow the similar steps.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that we are able to identify or follow the similar process to yours, when it comes to evaluating startups. And that has played out very well for us. And when we talk about MBA professionals, when they come from specifically finance field, we talk about risk management. And in terms of risk management, or let's call it portfolio diversification as well, how do you recommend the angel investors to diversify their portfolio when it comes to investing in startups? So, if you could talk.
So, thank you, Rishabh, for asking me this. And coming from a background of wealth management, it has helped me to understand the risk in a better format, right? I mean, when I look back and I see what mistakes I have done in the startups, it helps me to actually consciously take a decision that I need to diversify my risk. Now, today there are a lot of investment ideas getting generated everywhere, not just into the listed space, not just into the unlisted space, but there are ideas on cryptos, on many other things, right? And angel investors who have been into the industry in their corporate life for 15-20 years, they know a lot about their own business, as in the field in which they are working, but the other fields or sectors are something which they are unaware of, right? And they don't know how to manage their risk sometimes. People might just approach with, no, this is a good idea, just invest into it, but how should I go about it? So I think from that perspective, I have diversified my portfolio, not keep all your eggs in one basket. If I'm looking at startups, I look at 4 or 5 different sectors into startups so that my money is safe into those startups. I'm not just looking at unlisted space, I'm looking at listed space, I'm looking at mutual funds, I'm looking at insurance as a product. If it gives me an opportunity, there are multiple avenues. I mean, I at Fourth Years Capital manage my investors' money. We manage about 130 crores. And I have made sure that this money is diversified across the asset classes. And I think it has played out very well in terms of risk for my investors. For me personally, whatever I have done in startups, I think it has played out very well. And today, when I look at startups coming on to my table from the Bolstart's platter, I think it is very important for me to look out the kind of idea. So I have also thought of diversity. Whatever I have invested it into, I have not invested into similar sector or similar kind of startup. I'm looking at a finance tech. I have also looked at a couple of more startups from your table. So I think I'll not name them right now, but I think diversification is the key to the success of your portfolio.
Absolutely, absolutely. We also keep telling our investors, keep diversifying your portfolio, not in just terms of industry, but also in terms of numbers. The amount of check that you write a startup is not really important in our thesis. What we tell them is, if you have a number of amount in your mind, you want to invest so much in the span of 2 years, we tell them, divide them into smaller checks and then invest into multiple different companies.
I think that's great.
Yeah. And if they invest through a platform like Bolstart, wherein we are already evaluating startups, it will help them diversify their risk as well, because we share only good quality startups with them.
Absolutely.
Right? And while I have already talked a lot about working professionals here, and investors would have also thought, why are they focusing so much on working professionals? We came across a lot of working professionals who asked us, why are you focusing on us? And once we start talking with them, they tell us, we are professionally stagnated, or there is a pyramid-like structure when it comes to corporate work. There are a lot of opportunities at the bottom, very few at the top. So they feel that they are professionally stagnated at certain times. What would your advice or your tips be to them to begin a second career, or help navigate this second career option or professional stagnation?
So I would say that don't term it as a second career, term it as a parallel career, right? Even if you're working into a corporate world, you might feel stagnated, as Rushabh said, and there comes a tipping point when you feel a little disoriented, dissatisfied from your work. But then what works best for you? You have worked and slogged years to get that money. It is very important that now, since you have worked for that money, let the money work for you. I always say to my investors also, it is very important for you to make your money work for you. And that is not a second career, that's a parallel career. I mean, it has to work simultaneously, because by the time you'll be at the crux or at the end point of your career, you never know what might click good for you. So today you might be just an angel investor to a particular company, but tomorrow you probably could have a board seat there. You could be one of the biggest investors if the startup does very well, if it does multiple times. And I think as a working professional, from what I have seen and what I would advise is that since it is difficult for you to figure out companies, I think Bolstart is doing a job of getting those ingredients combined into an appetizer for you. It is for you kept on the platter. Just choose the right appetizer for you, and I think if you choose the right appetizer, you're home. So I think I thank you, Rushabh, and Bolstart team to give us this opportunity to actually have an exposure to these kind of startups, which was primarily limited to few set of people and sect of people across the country.